Buffer that. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Brothas-in-law. Tonight we're doing something different. We are actually doing our first live. I think, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this would be our 20th video we've done thus far.
Yeah, I think you're right on. I think that's it.
Yeah, and so we decided, you know what, we need to do a live video just to get the feel of that and see how that works, and give our audience something different in our little show. And so if you're new to this channel, I'm Corey Taylor, and my co-host tonight is Mr. Michael Bradley. He and I are both prior law enforcement. I did 7 years with the Virginia State Police. And Mike is a retired police officer out of Pleasanton, California, where he served 26 years in his city's police department. So I'm a retired Navy Chief Petty Officer. I did just a little over 20 years of military service. And here we are today, just sharing our life experience, military and law enforcement, and talk about a lot of these shootings that we see take place around the country. It's heartbreaking to see these things happen, and so it's time that we take action. Now, Mike and I are no longer in uniform, but however, we have the characteristic of continuing our service. I mean, it's in our blood, I believe, to serve. Again, Mike was also prior Army. I think, Mike, you did 6 years in the Army?
That's right, 6 years in the Army.
Yeah. And so we just, bringing our military experience and our law enforcement experience together, talk about how we can bring some type of resolution to all these shootings and everything that's taking place within our communities throughout the country. It's senseless. These things don't have to happen. And the only way it's going to change, we can't rely on people in office to do it. We have to do it ourselves. It starts at the home, in home, to ensure our children know how to interact with law enforcement. And unique thing about this, we came up with the acronym of CALM. Mm-hmm. Staying calm, which means comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. So we believe that if you follow these 4 key points here, that no matter what type of officer you get, whether he may be racial, maybe has some type of bias with him or her, you follow these key points here, you should be fine. Now, nothing is guaranteed.
Right. But you should be able to go home.
Right.
If you follow these 4 things. I mean, correct. Now, unless you are doing something that is shady or criminal, and you get contacted by the police and you start veering off of these things, well, a lot can happen. You opening that door for a lot of things that can happen.
Correct.
So, we want to look at a situation. We usually take a video of some body camera video that we see on the internet or something like that of a police involved interaction or shooting or whatever it is, and give you our own personal view of what we would have done if we were in that same scenario. So we as me and Corey and I, when we did this job, color didn't have nothing to do with it. You know what I'm saying? We don't care what color you are. It's about how you act and how your actions are towards us is going to dictate how we react to you. So we really are just going to give you our view of a police incident and just frankly just tell you whether or not that's something that we would do or if that's something that we think would have been reasonable in the eyes of a reasonable officer. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's key, Mike.
Yeah, that's key.
I think that's key. What a reasonable officer do?
Yeah,
in these type of situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's cool. That's cool. I did for most of my career, I was a patrol officer. I was the officer that handled calls for service. When you called the police, I came it was me that you had to deal with, or whatever happened on the street. I was that officer on scene that had to deal with what was going on the street. I was that officer making traffic stops. Corey, you too, was that officer making traffic stops or going to calls for service. Whatever it would have been at that particular incident. We did that for a long time. We have the training of what police officers go through. One on Virginia side, one on the California side. So we like to at least give people some insight of what a police officer is thinking on certain situations or not. Now, there's obviously thousands of departments across the country, right? So we'd be naive to say every department is exactly the same. No, that's not the case. But there are some basic things when you follow the C.A.L.M acronym that is going to apply no matter who you're dealing with.
That's right.
And like I said, once you start veering off of that, comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. Once you start veering away from that, you starting to get into an area where a lot of things can happen. You're creating a lot of things that maybe don't need to happen. That's all.
Yeah, and keep in mind, these are our opinions of what we experienced on the side of the road that we'll also be discussing, not only just in this video, but even in our previous videos, or just our opinions based on our experiences that we've had. And so we're not lawyers. We're not going to give you any type of legal counsel. We would tell you what outcomes have happened in court on cases that we've have dealt with, but we can't give you any legal advice. We just want to get you the information, like Mike said. So, when you see these things happen on TV, you won't overreact to it. You want to start asking the who, what, where, when, and why did this happen, instead of your natural instinct being, oh, this had to been another, white police officer shoots a black person, unarmed black person. And that, we continuously go on, and through more investigation, we find out that this individual actually did have a weapon. Now, most people have already had their minds made up that this was another white cop shooting an unarmed black person, and it's not going to change their mindset. But what we're trying to do is open your mind. Let's see the whole thing before we start throwing the race out there, and it's just another black person being gunned down. Let's look at the whole thing.
Yeah,
that's
and
what
a
we
lot of
want.
times, I've always thought too, Corey, a lot of times when citizens don't really have a good grasp on how police officers do certain things or why they do certain things, they do tend to jump to conclusions. Yeah. They'll look at something in their eyes, they'll look at that as well, that's unreasonable because I wouldn't do that, right? That's how citizens will look at it. And I understand. And that's what we're trying to combat that, at least give you some, some inside knowledge so that you will better understand why this happened or why that happened, or something that you see and you didn't understand what was going on. Now you do, because
now you do. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so tonight we got a video to break down for you that happened probably about a year ago down in Florida. And this was a result of a shooting that took place during a traffic stop in Florida. And so we're going to break it down, and you get to go over it live with us. So those of you who are online with us, if you want to leave a comment in there and give your opinion, please do. We'll answer your question live and help give you some insight into what's going on. Again, what a reasonable officer would have done or should have done. And we're going to put the question back on you. Okay, well, what would you have done if you were that officer?
Yeah, I love to hear some of those when you see this video, or if you see some, if you got any questions about anything for that matter, we'd love to answer those. This is a great time to answer those questions about police work, or whatever you feel comfortable talking about. But yeah, go ahead, Corey.
All right, so Oh, before we start the video, if you're new to our channel, the Brothers-in-law, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification button so you stay up to date on all of our latest videos. Excuse me. We try to put a video out once a week, every Thursday. If we do another live, we'll put it out a week in advance, like we did here, so you know to go ahead and mark your calendars for that date. All right. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and start this video, and we're gonna break it down.
And make sure, and some of these things might be a little graphic. So if you're a little sensitive to certain things, there are some things in here that you might see that's going to be upsetting. Okay, so just be aware of that.
All right, here we go. And the audio will kick on here in a second when his body cam audio kicks in. Again, look at the time. It's broad daylight still.
Yeah.
How you doing, sir? You probably put it on later, but you didn't have a seatbelt on when you came out onto That's fine. No biggie. Not a problem, man. You got your ID on you, man? This car registered you? Okay, so you live in Tallahassee? In Tallahassee? Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Okay, cool.
So,
I haven't been put over that. Yeah, that's fine. Well, I mean, you don't have to be that nervous. So you got anything in the car or anything like that crazy? Because I mean, I can tell you that you just by your mannerisms, you know, you're doing a lot of wild stuff that you weren't even. You know, what I mean by wild, I mean, here's what I mean is that you're doing a bunch of movements that make no sense to what I want you to do, which is just find your ID. You know what I'm saying? You keep reaching and moving. So what you looking for, man?
all right, I'm gonna stop that, Mike.
I don't need your registration.
Okay.
No. So
Now, what he's talking about there, and this is what policing is all about. You know, an officer is trained to look for these type of things that are out of the ordinary. Usually when you walk up to the car and state your name, such as, you know, he did, and the reason why he pulled him over, and you start going for that, looking for your driver's license. Well, everybody knows where your driver's license is at. Women is usually in their pocketbook. Men is usually in their wallet. And when you start looking on the floorboard and in the back seat and all these other different areas, well, we start to, okay, does he not know where his driver's license? What's going on? So these are those flags, and this is how fast these things happen, right? It may not look like it's happening fast to you, but to an officer, these things are happening rapidly.
Yeah.
And he's picking up on it and noticing these things. Now, keep in mind, listen to the officer's tone of voice. At no time did he ever disrespect this young man or call the young man out of name. Mike, you got anything to add?
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people, they hear when he says you start doing wild things, or you know, that's his word that he used anyway. And they so I think maybe some citizens would look at that and then say, well, what does that mean? What do you mean I'm doing wild? You know, they'd be offended by that. But as you were saying, Corey, you're right. You know, we as officers, we look for those things. If you're looking nervous or something like that, that's an indication that there might be something more going on here. Remember back in some earlier episodes, Corey, we talked about how traffic stops sometimes it's like a mini investigation. It's not just about go make contact with the driver, write him a ticket, or don't write him a ticket and let him go. It's a lot more in between. And what you're seeing here up to this point is those in betweens. This officer is doing a traffic stop and he's investigating what he is seeing. He's noticing that this guy is acting a little nervous, doing things. You know, if I tell you, like you said, if I tell you to reach for you, where's driver's license, and you reaching for some place that is not normally that. Not just one thing. It's a couple of things. You're reaching for some place where driver's licenses normally aren't kept, or you're doing things that don't seem logical for what I'm asking you to do. That's all.
Right.
You'd have to experience that for yourself to really know what we're talking about. But you'll be able to see that if you're looking for suspicious things. Go ahead.
Now, and keep in mind too, if you didn't do nothing wrong, you have no reason to be fidgety and nervous like that. Now, I say that with a grain of salt because I have stopped individuals where they have never been pulled over by police before, and it's almost like, okay, hold on, take a deep breath. You're about to hyperventilate on me. Now, that's different from what this gentleman here is doing. It is a difference, and as an officer, you're trained to pick up on these things, how one person's acting versus how another person is acting, and this is what he is picking up on. This is not, and the young man said he never been stopped before. Okay, that's fine, like the officer said, but you're still acting suspicious, like you're doing a lot of fidgeting around. That's not normal, and so we'll go ahead and keep this moving.
Okay.
And look what else he's got going on here.
Do you have anything in the car at all? That's actually kind of my firearm. Okay, that's fine. Hop on out for me. And can I grab the receipt for my firearm? No, I'll get all that in just a second. I want you to reach in.
Pause it for a sec. For a sec.
Yeah.
So he asked if the driver told the officer that he had a firearm. Okay. So whether it's legal or not legal in your particular state where you are, that's fine. And he told him that he had a firearm. That's great, But keep in mind, when you tell me that, my sensitivity is raised a little bit more, because now I know that there's something in there in your car that if you choose to do so could hurt me. So yeah, I'm a little bit more aware of what's going on. Now, when he asked to get out of his car, you notice the driver asked, can I get my receipt for the gun? You see, that's weird, for lack of a better word. That's another sign of something going on that he's nervous about, because the officer didn't ask him for his receipt. The officer didn't even make any statements as to show that he didn't believe that the gun was legally his. Wasn't even that. You know what I'm saying? So these are all red flags that are starting to pop up. To me as an officer, that's a red flag to me. You asked him to show your receipt, but I didn't ask you for a receipt. I didn't say that the gun wasn't yours. Why are you assuming that you need to show me a receipt? That's not normal for me. Go ahead.
Right. And so the main thing with this here is officer safety. So his number one priority is separating him from that weapon.
Right.
And so we're always going to ask you to step out the vehicle. Anything else at this point is secondhand. Number one priority is, officer safety and this individual safety. So he has to separate him from that weapon, and he's going to detain him. Right. That would be normal procedures. You're going to be detained right now. Make sure the weapon's not stolen, blah, blah. He'll get all that other information as you see. But when you're doing suspicious things like that, can I get this? Can I get that? No, because I don't want you to have to go for that weapon. And we're going to see what's going on right now.
Jacket, all right, hop on that for me. See, that's when I'll get it. Just a second, turn that way for me. No problem. There you go, that way.
I'm sorry, Mike. I gotta stop it before I forget what I need to say. All right, everybody, hey, check this out. So, keeping with the acronym, right? The first letter in C.A.L.M is complying, right? We see this young man is doing exactly that. Everything's cool right now.
Yeah.
Right. He is complying. The officer asked him to step out of the vehicle. He asks a couple questions. No problem. He gets on out of the vehicle, turn around. No problem. Everything is good. This is how it in perfect world, this is how it's supposed to start out. All right.
Right.
All right, here we go.
We just got to roll in the blunt. Okay. Why you smell like what you smell? Okay. Smoking hemp. Okay. You got anything else in your car at all? Nothing illegal? You sure? Okay. Mind if we search your vehicle? You don't mind?
Pause it for a second.
Yep.
So you notice how he said, you know, clearly he thinks the officer thinks he was smoking marijuana or rolling a joint or something like that. Now, if you notice, the officer asked for permission to search his vehicle.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean that officer doesn't already have a legal authority to search that vehicle, whether he gives him consent or not. That's common practice as an officer. I'm going to ask for permission to search a vehicle, even if I already know that I can search the vehicle without your consent. So, you know, there at one point, if I smell marijuana coming from inside your vehicle, or especially if I see evidence of marijuana inside the vehicle, that gave me authority to search the vehicle without your consent. Now, it's a little different now, obviously, because marijuana is legal, and I wouldn't use that anymore if I were still a police officer today. I wouldn't use that reason anymore to search someone's vehicle. I would rather get their consent in most cases. Right. But in this case, that officer knows that he can search that vehicle, whether he gives him consent or not. But he's still going to ask him consent just to see if he says, yeah, maybe he's all on the up and up. We don't know what's going on. If he says no, then that's another red flag that, there might be something else in there.
Right. Again, that's all part of the investigation. Right. Asking the questions, see what you're going to say. Are you going to be truthful with us? Are you going to be, hesitant with your answer? So this is all still part of that investigation and finding out what's going on. Clearly, there's some type of drug paraphernalia in that vehicle. Now he says he was just smoking hemp versus having it cut up.
Right.
And so we'll keep that on rolling. Just keep all that in mind.
Okay. That's fine. Well, given the fact that you given the fact that you had marijuana flakes coming off your shirt the way they are, okay, that's a no-no. You don't have a marijuana card, do you? No, sir. Okay. Right. I know that. But that wasn't there that you had flicking off. Well, sir. Okay. Well, that's fine. So you have nothing else on the car at all? No, sir. Okay. What kind of firearm do you have in your car? Glock 26. Where is it at? In my jacket, located right there inside of the jacket. Okay. You have a concealed permit? No, sir. It's in the jacket. Well, it's in the jacket. Once law doesn't it have to be? I know it has to be put away when it's inside of the vehicle, and it's away inside of my jacket. So is it in holster? It's inside of the jacket. No, so that jacket's away. Nope. So what it means that the state of Florida, it needs to be either in a glove compartment locked away in a holster, or it needs to be in another locked compartment inside of a holster legally to be able to possess it legally in a vehicle. Unless you have a concealed weapons permit, then you can carry it any way you want to. Reason being the concealed weapons. Okay. All right. So, but you carry.
Okay. Another red flag.
I'll pause it. Go ahead.
Another red flag to the officer. You got a firearm and you carrying it inside your jacket. You don't have it in a locked container. You don't have it locked in your glove box. You don't have it locked in a container in your trunk. You're carrying it in your jacket pocket. Okay. Who carries guns in their jacket pockets unless it's a state where you legally can carry guns that way? Most of the time, there's criminals that carry guns like that, right?
Yeah. Well, and if you have a concealed permit, which he did not.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, and that's a red flag. So, that gives that officer more indication that maybe there's something more to investigate here, because you got some weed that he's convinced that it was weed that he was either rolling or smoking. So he's going to search the car. The way he's storing his firearm is in a way that an amateur would do, or someone who is carrying that gun for criminal purposes or for shady purposes, whatever the reason is. So these are red flags. Just keep in mind of these red flags that are building up here. That's making this officer more concerned about what he has here in front of him.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And so keep in mind too, of your carry conceal laws in your state. I'm here in Virginia. Our laws here are a little bit different than out there in California where Mike is. So that is not an excuse for you not to know what the laws are in your state if you are the type to carry a weapon. Here in Virginia, we have the open carry policy where you don't have to have a concealed carry unless you're going to carry concealed. So that weapon has to be visible at all times. But we're not going to get into that law. Just be sure that you know your law if you carry a weapon for your particular state.
That's right.
So we'll go ahead and keep it moving.
It's not good. So I'll get the paperwork for your firearm. Okay, on my phone. Okay, good, grab it.
Now, see, I wouldn't have let him do that right there, Mike.
So,
No. Because once you got a firearm in there, I don't want you going in your vehicle for anything until I'm sure that everything is safe.
sound good? All right, come on.
I don't know if he saw that cell phone sitting right there or what,
All right, hold on. He said, you notice how the officer is got him by the elbow right here. And we just call that, escorting. Well, the gentleman says, can I walk by myself? No, the officer says. And why does he say that? He said it because he needs to keep positive control of him because he's giving off all these red flags. The officer doesn't want him to get back into that vehicle and try to get that gun or flee the scene. Right.
And the officer says that much. He says, I don't want you to, what's the word he used? Skedaddle or something like that?
Yeah, skedaddle or something like that.
He
Yeah.
explained, that's why I'm keeping it ground. I don't want you to take off on this. Is just, let me walk you back to my car.
Keep in mind, and here's the first question for tonight. Has this officer thus far done anything unreasonable? Are there any indications that would give you that this officer is being racist towards this young man here?
And if you do feel like there's something unreasonable, join in with this video. Give us some comments or some questions.
Yeah, let us know what you think.
Right, let us know. We can talk about that. And there it is. Now pause. So real quick, you see him break away, jump back into the car. The officer ends up jumping on top and pinning him. Now, why would you want to do that? Why would you break away and try to get back in that car? As an officer, I'm thinking you either trying to drive away or you trying to go for that gun that's in your jacket pocket. You see what I'm saying? That would be in my mind right there. So I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to make sure you don't get to that gun in any form or fashion.
Yep. And so now the struggle begins. So now you see why, officers ask a lot of these questions, right? A lot of red flags went off. And now this individual has bucked, is what we call try to run. Whether, like Mike just said, whether he's trying to get in that car to get that gun or he's trying to drive off. See, this is why the officer put hands on him, trying to escort him back. In this situation, I would have told him, hey, you're detained. I'm going to place handcuffs on you.
Yeah, I would have cuffed him right
Yeah,
there. Right.
I would have put him in handcuffs because I don't want you to do just this right here. Now it's going south, and this is where we get all out of control over with police involved shootings. Now up to this point, Mike, he's completed 2 of those 4 letters in the acronym. He was complying. Yeah, he was complying and answering questions. He was halfway there. You see what I'm saying? And this is what we're talking about, folks. This is what we're talking about right here. If you do these 4 things, there's no reason what you're about to see next should happen.
Right.
You comply, you answer the questions, you listen, you move on. Now we're gonna see what happens.
At this point, everything is out the window now.
Everything's out the window now.
A lot of stuff can happen.
Now,
good and bad. You see what I'm saying?
Who changed the script? Who changed the script in this scenario right now?
That driver changed that whole deal.
He changed this whole scenario. All right, here we go.
Now pause it for a sec, Corey. Yeah, that's what I wanted to explain that part. So when that first officer dove on top of that driver in the vehicle, when he lunged back in the vehicle, his body camera got knocked off. Yeah. And I say that because that has happened to me several times, where my body camera got knocked off, whether it's during the altercation or something like that. So what you end up seeing now is video from the cover officer's body camera. So when that guy hits his foot on that gas pedal and the car takes off, the first officer that was on top of him is still in that car on top of him with him like that, fighting with him, whatever's going on in that car he's struggling with. And that's why you see it this way. Go ahead.
Right. All right, here we go.
Where's the gun at?
All right, so and just explain why it's taking so long for them to get him detained. We have to make sure that he doesn't have access to that weapon, because at this point, I don't think they can see where that weapon is. And so before first aid can ever be rendered to somebody, we have to make sure the scene is safe. Well, once the scene is safe, then they'll call rescue, and you'll see towards the end, and this is pretty much the end of the video here, but then they just administer first aid to him and get him help. I haven't seen anything. I tried to look up more information about it, but I don't think the gentleman died. Did he, Mike?
Yeah, when he got to the hospital, he actually died.
Did he? Okay.
He died of the gunshot wounds. Now, the only issue I might have on them as far as administering medical aid is, we all know as police officers, we all know once shooting happens, you still got to secure the person, make sure that person is safe, handcuff that person, and then render aid. Now, the question is, you got the shooter and you have a cover officer there on scene. Eventually, 2 more officers get there on scene. They seem to be hesitant to approach him, even though they got enough units there to do so. In California, you know, if you got 2 or 3 guys there on scene after I shoot, once the shooting takes place, one guy still is the cover unit, maintaining cover, while the other guy does go hands on and continue to handcuff that person. Now, like you said, they may not know where this gun is. They don't know if he still has, if it's still within his reach. I don't know. You see what I'm saying? I don't know that. But we do try to number one, make that scene safe first. Just because you are shot and on the ground does not mean you can still hurt someone, or you still are within reach of a handgun or a weapon of some sort. Right. So it doesn't mean that, you know.
Yeah, and again, this should not have happened.
No, definitely should not have happened.
Yeah, the question arises. Yeah, it didn't have to be. So the question is, why? Why did it happen? And this is how 99% of them always turn out, but you don't hear it that way. And then by the time it actually comes out, most people's minds are already made up that the officer was at fault. So let us know what you think. Did the officer do anything unreasonable?
Now, there's a I was reading up on the family is doing a civil suit, I think it is too. They found that these officers did nothing wrong. They were justified in their actions. But as you know, normally the families will go and fight that, which is fine. But the issue is whether or not was he, what we don't see on this body camera footage is whether or not he was going for his gun or whether or not that officer shot him in defense. We don't have a clear view of a body camera footage that we could show you that says, oh, I see him reaching for the gun, or I see him holding the gun, or whatever that case may be. You know?
Correct.
But in this case, based on this situation right here, what you do see, in my opinion, I feel it's enough for me as a reasonable officer to come to the conclusion to say, yeah, I can see why he shot this guy. You see what I'm saying? There's enough red flags there that built up to this point,
right,
that I can reasonably conclude, yeah, that makes sense. I can see why he shot this guy. You know, he took off in the car with another officer still on top of him. You know, there was a struggle in the car. He had a gun in the car. Now, what else would you be going for? Right. The officer that was on top who lost his body camera said that at one point the driver did manage to grab the gun, and he was fighting him from grabbing the gun. So, you know, all those things definitely show a reasonableness to why this person was shot. You know.
Yeah. And again, you know, it's one of those things you wish it didn't happen, but this young man changed it when he tried to flee.
Yeah.
And now, you know, you're making this officer having to make that detrimental decision, right? And it would have been great to have his body camera, but obviously, you know, it happens. We didn't have body cameras. So, you know, I solely had to rely on my camera in my video or in my my car.
Yeah.
I solely had to rely on that. But that a lot of times that doesn't, as you know, Mike, that doesn't capture everything. So, you know, the body camera is very, very important in these shootings.
Especially nowadays, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was like Mike said, there was a lot of red flags there. You know, it's either we don't know this kid's mindset. Was he going to shoot at the officer? Did he have the gun in his hand? I mean, because I didn't hear, you know, drop the gun. Let me see your hands. I didn't hear anything like that.
I didn't hear that like that either.
I just heard the shots. Now, not to say that, you know, you're supposed to call it out when you see it. For two reasons. One, that verbal language is picked up on your camera, And two, that also lets your partners know, your shift partners know that, hey, this individual, this subject has a weapon. So they're on the alert. So you're supposed to call it out if you see that weapon or if he's going. And now sometimes it doesn't happen that way. Could this have been that case? It could have been. We don't know.
Sometimes it could have happened so fast that you don't have time to say drop the gun.
Right. You don't have time. You don't have time. But, even I always used to say, even after the fact, still say it so that it's been said.
And also, I think we need to understand too, as an officer, if I believe you are going for a gun, I don't have to wait to actually physically see you with a gun pointed at me before I decide to shoot you. You see what I'm saying? That's something else that people got to understand. There's enough indication here. If I truly believe you are going for a gun, number one, I know that gun was in the car. You told me it was in the car. It was in a car in a fashion that is readily accessible. The reason why we have gun laws as far as how you store your gun in a car is so that the gun is not readily accessible. It's locked away. It's locked in the container. But you had your gun readily accessible where you can quickly grab it. If I dove on top of you and I'm struggling with you while you're trying to grab that gun, and then we end up crashing into the side of a house, okay, yeah, I got enough reason there to believe you going for your gun. So I jump back and I decide to shoot you. You see what I'm saying? And I think that's a fine line that some citizens can't grasp. You have citizens out there who feel that you have to wait to have that gun pointed at you in your face before you can shoot. But if you did that, it's too late. You're gonna already get shot, and you're gonna be the officer that's dead. You see what I'm saying? And people don't understand that. Some people seem like they almost feel like you got to wait to get shot before you decide to shoot someone else, and that's just not the case. So, like you said, Corey, this all could have been avoided if he just didn't look. If you got something in there that you ain't supposed to have, or what I didn't catch is, was this gun legal? Was this legally his firearm?
Well, I don't know. We never got that far. The officer never really got that far to run the serial numbers or anything. But the young man did say he had the receipt for the gun. I don't know if he's saying that because he bought it or who bought it, whose gun was it. I mean, fine, you had the receipt, but is the gun registered to you?
But based on what happened, he could have just been saying receipt. Maybe if the officer said, yeah, let me see the receipt, he could have went in and grabbed the gun and shot the officer right then. That could have been a ploy for him to go reach for his gun in the first place. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So we just don't know. The only motivation I can see for this guy running is he must have known that firearm he had was not legally owned by him, or was something illegal with it. Again. Or he had something else in the car, or he knew he had some warrants or something, which again, people, we always tell you, if you got something going on and you either about to get arrested, just go and get arrested. It's not worth your life. Yep. You might come across that officer that feels like he or she has to shoot you for something if you making some threatening move or doing something stupid like this gentleman here. And it's not worth it.
No, it's not worth it.
Get your ticket, take care of your warrant or whatever it is.
I think a lot of times these guys just have it made up in their head that they don't want to go back to jail. I firmly believe that, because what else is going to cause you to react this way? Okay, you don't want to go back to jail. I get it. But the way the laws are now, the laws are stacked in the criminal's favor. So, maybe he would have been out in a couple hours or the next day. Right. And you deal with it. The last letter of the acronym is move on. Right. He would have moved on. He would have moved on. And that's what we're saying. You know, when we talk about staying calm, you know, at the end result, it's not for you to fight with the officer, to flee the officer. It's just to be able to move on, whether it's getting the ticket or if this guy had warrants, is going to jail, go in front of magistrate and get your bond and move on, right? When you make that conscious decision to go against what is right, then the outcome is on you. It's on you because now you're forcing this officer's hand to make a decision whether this is going to be a shoot, don't shoot situation for this officer. Because at the end of the day, the officer doesn't want to get hurt. That officer, I guarantee you, out of all this, all he wanted to do was maybe write the ticket and send the guy on his way or give him a warning and send him on his way. This officer, I guarantee you, did not plan on this to happen. So all this, you know, rumor that a lot of these so-called celebrities like spewing out their mouths that officers wake up every day just to gun down black people, that's a straight up lie. That's a straight up lie. No officers out here just getting up every day and say, oh, how many black people I'm gonna gun down today? That's a lie. Because I can vouch for everybody that I work for, that was not on their minds. Now, one bit. And we need to get over that. This situation happened because of this young man here. It was his mistakes, not the officer, right? You forced this officer's hand to make this deadly decision. And it's sad. And this is why Mike and I are doing this YouTube channel. We need to stop this. We need to recognize what the real problem is. And the real problem is these guys making these wrong decisions like this, getting themselves in trouble like this, to where they get to the point, instead of properly knowing how to deal with the officers, you want to make the choice of fighting the officer, and now you're going to end up dead. And that's not how it should not happen this way. Listen, I know for a fact Mike was the same way too. When I put that uniform on and that gun on, my number one priority was coming home.
Yeah, that's true.
My number one priority was coming home at the end of my shift.
And thanks, Mr. Hodge. I appreciate you chiming in with us, watching the video with us. I appreciate your comments. Are greatly appreciated. Go ahead, Gordon.
Oh yeah, thank you, Chris. You know, that was our number one priority, is to go home. You know, second priority for our ship was what's for lunch or dinner. Am I lying, Mike?
Yeah, you ain't lying. You ain't lying.
That was our mindset.
We called it Code 7. Where we go? What's from Code 7, right? But you're right. You're right. I mean, you know, you don't. And no officer wants to get into a shooting. And again, let me. You know, I like to play devil's advocate. You know, I'm all about police. I'm gonna tell you why I'm all about police reform, though. Okay, I'm all about police reform because there's always better ways of doing things. So I'm definitely not going to argue that. I have no problem with more training, not less training. Okay, and whatever that may be, or whatever the community feels that their police officers need to be trained on, I got nothing against training. Okay, but understand some things. It's more on the person that you're dealing with than it is the officer. You know, you gonna force the officer's hands on some things because officers always have to take safety as the number one priority. If I feel you doing something that's threatening me or threatening to what I'm trying to do, or if I feel that you're going to resist me in any way of what I need to do with you, that's going to be a problem. You see what I'm saying? And people need to understand that. Police officers, let them do what they need to do to you to make sure you go home.
Right.
That's what's important.
Right.
Okay. Again, if you got something going on that's bad, hey, you know, go with the flow. Yes, sir. No, sir. I'm gonna do what you need me to do, or whatever. Comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. You know what I'm saying?
This is from Chris. Chris is actually in Salem, Massachusetts. And he says, "Hey, great video so far. Good points, and keep up the message. If the young man had used C.A.L.M, this could have been avoided, and everyone would have had a better day. The officer and the young man, and that is so true. And we thank you for that comment, Chris. That's why I came up with the acronym of C.A.L.M, and Mike latched on to it because there's no reason for you to have to end up in this situation, and that's what Mike, and I'll be honest, that's what hurts me. It's like, man, if these cats would have just been calm, man, just go to court, just handle it in court. It's not the side of the road where you handle this. And I can't tell you how many times, guys would try to challenge me on the side of the road. And I was like, look, man, we're not going to hold court on the side of the road because it ain't going to end good for somebody. And that somebody's going to be you. And once you tell them that, it's like, oh, no, trooper, oh, no, we good. I'm like, okay, because you acting kind of strange right now. Right? You're trying to be, very defensive with me right now. We're not going to, no, just sign the ticket. And let's explain that real quick, Mike. Sign, we call them summonses, but some cities and counties and states call them tickets. We call them Virginia uniform summonses.
Okay.
Let's explain that, Mike. Signing the ticket. What does that mean? Does that mean that they're guilty?
No. People don't understand that. So you'd be surprised how many people don't understand that.
Yeah.
Signing a ticket, just how can I say it in the most simplest terms that I can think of? Basically, you are, number one, not admitting that you're guilty. You're not saying that, yeah, I agree with the officer. I did run the stop sign or whatever the ticket is for. You're not saying that. Signing the ticket is nothing more than you promising that you are going to at least answer for this violation that they said you did. What answering to that violation means is basically you at least are going to try to give your side of the story of what happened. Okay?
Tell it to the
to
judge.
make it sound more pleasant, if you will, that's really what you're doing is you're making it known that, listen, officer, I don't agree with why you gave me this ticket, but I will sign it and I will show up to court to make sure I can address it, which at one point, at that point, I will also have my opportunity to the judge to give my side of the story of why I don't agree with this ticket. That's all your signature means on there. If you don't sign it, what you are saying is, I don't care that I got this ticket. I don't care that the officer is giving me this ticket. I don't agree with him, and I'm not going to participate or cooperate with what the officer or what the traffic courts are telling me to do. That's what you're saying. Well, if you're saying that, I can't, as an officer, just let you go ahead and drive down the road. You're telling me that you're not going to participate and not going to answer for this ticket that me as the officer believe you deserve, right? So not only are you not trying to give your side of the story to a judge, not the cop, not the officer, you're not trying to give your side of the story to the judge in court. Well, I'm going to have to arrest you at that point and actually book you into jail, okay? So that I can make sure you get to court on this citation. Mm-hmm. That's what happens when you don't sign a citation. Now, in the department that I worked for, if we came across something like that where somebody refused the citation, I would try my best to explain to them what it means and why they need to sign, because I don't want to take you to jail for a traffic violation. You see what I'm saying? If they still don't want to sign, it was our policy that we had to at least get the supervisor out there, and the supervisor would then try to convince them to sign. And if they don't, this didn't happen very often, but if they didn't sign, we had to take them to jail. You know what I'm saying?
See, See, y'all are a lot nicer than we are. We didn't call we don't call supervisors out for that. No, sir.
I can see that. I can see that for highway patrol.
State, we don't do that. I give you two warnings, or not warning. I give you two chances. I explain it to you. You tell me no, I ain't signing it. I'm gonna say, listen, you don't want to have to go in front of the magistrate tonight. We'll sit there all night. Magistrate gonna leave you in there until you come around and you gonna sign it, or he'll leave you in there until you go in front of the judge. We don't want to have to go and do that. No, I ain't signing. Okay, hold on. When I put that clipboard down, I come back. It's hands on. You coming out that car, right? And everything else is gone out the window. You going to jail. No, Virginia State Police not calling supervisors out there to come and coerce you or into signing that summons. No, sir. We don't have time for that. And see, you got to get that in your head. Listen, police officers don't have this kind of time to argue with you on the side of the road. You got these cars flying by you 70, 80 miles an hour because they know you tied up so you can't get them. And that's the most dangerous time for an officer doing a traffic stop out there on the highway or even on the roadway in the city. That's the most dangerous time for the officer is during the traffic stop. I was more worried about getting hit by vehicles versus getting shot because we're always out there on the highway and then cars just whizzing by you. That was what I was afraid of most, is getting hit by a car. But the bottom line is, you don't want to have to fight the officer on the side of the road, get in arguments with the officer on the side of the road. Your job is to stay calm, comply, answer the questions, listen to what they're telling you, and move on. All right. That is your job. This is a two-way street, because if you don't want this to go any further than, even if this guy didn't have the debris of the marijuana on him, he was just, seatbelt violations for what I can tell. The officer probably just wrote that ticket and moved on. And he probably, hey, you got it. Now, had he said no, he didn't have. Now, I'm sure a lot of people have lied to his mic and said no, they didn't have weapons in the car, and they did, and we didn't press the issue no more. Right? Could we have pressed the issue more? We probably could have. I mean, do we really? Sometimes depending on the officer. How's that officer's mindset at that? Does he just want to write the ticket and send this guy on his way, or does he really want to go on and press the issue further and do further investigation because he think the guy's lying to see what he has? I don't know, but the bottom line is for you to stay calm. If you get into situations like this, then the outcome is going to be bad, right? He was halfway there. He was halfway there. He had to comply, and he had to answer questions down. But all he needed to do was all he had to do was walk back to that vehicle, to that police officer, and this young man would be here with us today. But it was his choice, his decision that he made that ultimately ended up getting him killed. Now, like Mike said, I'm all for training. I'm all for improvement. We can always add to the training. We should not be taken away from the training, because the training gives you the better quality of officers. You take away, you're getting less quality, the bad apples of the bunch.
That's right.
So we want more training. We want better weapons. But at the end of the day, it's a two-way street. The citizen has a responsibility as well as the police officer. Now, like Mike said earlier, the police officer is going to react to you, the subject. You actually dictate the traffic stop. A
lot of it, you're right. A lot of it, that citizen they're the ones who can really control the outcome of that stop or what happens during that stop. Because the police officers, they have their, on a basic traffic stop, I'm going to do what I'm going to do at least A, B, C, and D, right? But if you show me something that I need to add another letter in there, then that's going to happen. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's very important to comply. Now, we're going to come across people clearly, as somebody who's going to feel like they don't want to comply at some point. They might comply half the time, but the next half the time up, I'm done complying. And they decide that they're going to change the whole dynamic of that stop. Officers, when they do stops on things, it's people got to understand also, we're looking for those red flags. If you're showing me red flags, that's telling me that I need to investigate more. I remember we did an earlier video, Corey, about when the first thing you ask somebody is, let me see your driver's license, and then, I have an ID card, or I don't have my license with me. Flag number one, that's a flag that this person is either an unlicensed driver, which is another ticket, or this person is suspended, which could be an arrest or another ticket, depending on what that officer decides to do. That's what we're thinking when you say, I don't have my license, or I don't have my license with me. Okay, are you saying you don't have it with you because you are actually an unlicensed driver, or you just forgot it at home? Well, we gotta investigate all of those things.
Right.
These are normal investigative steps in a traffic stop. Has
Right.
nothing to do with race. You know what I'm saying? These are normal things. No matter who I stop, if they tell me they don't have their license with me, or I don't have a license, or whatever it is, I'm going to run them through the system to make sure to see what's going on with their license. Number one, make sure their license is valid. They have a valid license that they just don't have with them at the time. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you don't have your license with you, that's fine. That's still a ticket. That still can be a violation, because not only obviously are you required to have a license to drive, you also are required to have that license with you to drive. So that's two separate things. You know what I'm saying? People got to understand those things too. Another thing, real quick, is some of the reasons why people get pulled over. And there have been plenty of violations that I've seen that the citizen feels that the violations are too small or not important enough. Like if I stop somebody because they have their registration tabs obstructed, they'll have an attitude with the officer because they feel that violation isn't important enough to be pulled over. And they don't realize that these are all very common violations, and why should you not be pulled over for it? You see what I'm saying? You have a signal that's out or something like that. They feel that those things aren't important enough, and they tend to have an attitude. That's been my experience. They tend to have an attitude about it, right? Don't have an attitude, folks. No matter how small you think the violation is, it's a violation. If the officer's going to give you a ticket for it, he's going to give you a ticket for it. The violation is on the ticket. You can research the violation yourself in the vehicle code or whatever codes you have in your particular state. So a violation is a violation. That's the point. And it doesn't matter how big or small. It's a reason to be pulled over, and that's what police are supposed to do.
And that's what happened in this situation. It was a seatbelt violation, and some may go off the deep end and say, he got killed for a seatbelt violation. No, that's not why this happened. It didn't happen because of seatbelt violation. As you saw in the video, he escalated this whole thing. He made that choice to jump back in that vehicle and try to drive off. Right. At no point did the officer say anything that I noticed that was disrespectful to this young man, or anything to give you any type of indication that it was racial, right? But media would take this, and I don't think they did, because it was pretty cut and dry, justifiable shooting. To spin this whole thing out of control, to make it a racial situation. But you know, it's sad. It should not have happened, and that's why we talk about staying calm and why it's important to stay calm, to comply, to answer questions, listen, and move on. So you know how to conduct yourself during a traffic stop, so you don't make wrong decisions and get yourself hurt or killed, or the officer getting hurt or killed themselves. So, with that being said, Mike, we'll leave the link down below after I make the edits to this video here. And like, share, and subscribe to our channel. If you're a first time viewer, hit that subscribe button so you get the latest of all our videos that we put out. Like I said, every Thursday we come out with a new video, or we're going to do a live. You know, we'll start doing those a little bit more. Let us know in the comments below if you like this live, if it's something you like us to continue on. Maybe this is something we'll consider. If there's something you would like for us to talk about as far as law enforcement goes, leave us a comment below, or hit us up on Facebook at Brothas-in-law, or over on Instagram at brothasinlaw_21. With that being said, Mike, you got any last words?
No, I appreciate you guys chiming in. If you happen to miss us live this time, we'll do a live again some other time, and make sure you hit hit us on that time. Live's a good time to do a show because we get the opportunity to try to answer your questions right there on the spot while we're doing the show. So I mean, this was the first time we did the live. So you know, we kind of we didn't know how many people we'd have to have the opportunity to actually see us. Live can be tricky because if you're not available during the time we're doing it, you might miss it, you know, but you can still check it out.
Check it out.
Still check it out. So you guys
share this video and spread the word of C.A.L.M and let people know about C.A.L M, because that's what's going to help them out on that traffic stop, staying calm. So until next week, we love y'all. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for supporting us, and we will see y'all next week.
Peace.
Peace.